What would you do if the very thing you mocked became the thing that saved your life? What if one single moment, just a few seconds, could completely shatter everything you believed and force you to confront a truth you spent your entire life trying to avoid? Today's testimony is one of the most shocking stories I have ever shared. It is the story of a Saudi man who publicly raised a cross before thousands of people. Some cheered. Some laughed. Others watched in disbelief. But seconds later, something happened that nobody could explain. Something so powerful that witnesses would talk about it for years. And what followed would lead one man from pride, influence, and spiritual darkness into an encounter that completely transformed his life. If you believe Jesus still changes lives today, take a moment to subscribe and join this growing family of faith. And stay with me until the very end, because what happened next completely changed everything. Also, tell us your location and the exact time you're watching from in the comments below. Most importantly, if you have a prayer request, do not hesitate to share it. Whether you're believing God for healing, restoration, provision, a breakthrough in your family, or salvation for a loved one, our community would be honored to pray for you. Now, let me tell you my story. My name is Faisal. For most of my life, people respected me. I was known throughout my region as a gifted speaker. When I entered a room, people listened. When I spoke publicly, crowds gathered. When I gave advice, people followed it. Outwardly, my life appeared successful. I had influence. I had wealth. I had recognition. But hidden beneath the surface was a darkness nobody knew about. A darkness I worked very hard to conceal. You see, despite all my success, I was miserable. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't find peace. Every night I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Questions haunted me. Questions I could never answer. Why did I feel empty? Why did success never satisfy me? Why was I constantly afraid? Why did I feel as though something was missing? The more I tried to ignore those questions, the louder they became. So I buried myself in work. I traveled. I invested. I accumulated more influence. But nothing changed. The emptiness remained. Then tragedy struck. My wife became seriously ill. At first, the symptoms seemed minor. But over time, her condition worsened. Doctor after doctor examined her. Specialist after specialist offered opinions. Yet nobody could provide answers. Months turned into years. The woman I loved slowly slipped away before my eyes. I watched helplessly. Every treatment failed. Every new medication disappointed us. Every doctor's visit ended with more uncertainty. The emotional weight became unbearable. One evening, after another devastating medical appointment, my wife looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Faisal," she whispered. "Yes. What if I never get better?" The question shattered me. I couldn't answer. I simply held her hand. That night, I cried alone. Nobody knew. Nobody saw. But for the first time in my life, I felt completely powerless. The following months became even worse. Financial pressures mounted. Business problems emerged. Several trusted associates betrayed me. One investment collapsed unexpectedly. Another failed shortly afterward. Everything seemed to be falling apart simultaneously. It felt as though my entire world was crumbling. Then came something even more disturbing. The dreams. At first, they happened occasionally. Then they became frequent. In the dreams, I stood alone in a vast desert. The sky was dark. The wind howled. And in the distance, I always saw a light. A brilliant light. No matter how hard I tried, I could never reach it. Every time I approached, I woke up. Night after night. Week after week. The same dream. The same light. The same mystery. I couldn't explain it. But deep inside, I sensed something important was about to happen. Something that would change everything. Then one day, while attending a public gathering, I met a man I had never seen before. His words would trigger a chain of events that would lead to the most extraordinary day of my life. And it all began with a simple question. A question I couldn't stop thinking about. A question that would eventually bring me face to face with a truth I never expected to find. For weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about the dreams. Every night, the same desert, the same darkness, the same distant light. And every morning, I woke up with more questions than answers. The strange part was that I never told anyone about them. Not my wife. Not my family. Not even my closest friends. Those dreams became my private burden. Then one afternoon, everything changed. I had been invited to speak at a large community gathering in a mountain region several hours from my home. Thousands attended. The event was crowded. Vendors lined the pathways. Families filled the open spaces. People traveled from neighboring towns just to be there. As usual, I was one of the featured speakers. I delivered my message. The audience applauded. People approached me afterward. Everything seemed normal. Then I noticed an elderly man standing alone near the edge of the crowd. Something about him caught my attention. He wasn't trying to meet me. He wasn't asking for a photograph. He wasn't seeking advice. He simply stood there watching. When our eyes met, he smiled. Then he slowly walked toward me. "Peace be upon you," he said. "And upon you," I replied. The old man studied my face. Then he asked a question that instantly made me uncomfortable. "Have you been dreaming about a light?" My heart nearly stopped. I stared at him. The noise of the crowd seemed to disappear. "Excuse me," he repeated the question. "Have you been dreaming about a light?" Every muscle in my body tensed. I had never seen this man before. I had never spoken to him. Nobody knew about the dreams. Nobody. "How do you know that?" I asked. The old man smiled. Then he said something I will never forget. "Because the one calling you wants you to find him." A chill ran through my body. I wanted answers. But before I could ask another question, he reached into his pocket. He handed me a small object wrapped in cloth. "What is this?" "You'll understand later." I looked down at the package. Then looked back up. But the old man was already walking away. Within moments, he disappeared into the crowd. I never saw him again. Not that day. Not ever. For the rest of the journey home, I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. The dreams. The light. The mysterious package. Nothing made sense. That evening, after arriving home, I finally unwrapped it. Inside was a small wooden cross. I immediately froze. My heart pounded. I stared at it for several moments. Then I put it away. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to ask questions. I certainly didn't want to explain it to anyone. Yet for some reason, I couldn't throw it away. Days passed. Then weeks. The cross remained hidden in a drawer. But the dreams continued. And now they were becoming more intense. In one dream, the light seemed closer. In another, I heard a voice. Not clearly. Just a few words. Enough to make me wonder. Enough to make me uneasy. Then my wife's condition suddenly worsened. Everything changed overnight. She became dangerously weak. Doctors admitted her to the hospital. Tests were performed. Specialists were consulted. The atmosphere became increasingly serious. One evening, a physician pulled me aside. His expression said everything before he spoke. My stomach sank. "What is it?" The doctor sighed heavily. "We're running out of options." Those words shattered me. I walked outside the hospital and sat alone in my car. For the first time in years, I felt completely helpless. The successful businessman was gone. The respected speaker was gone. The confident leader was gone. All that remained was a desperate husband watching the woman he loved slip away. That night, I returned home exhausted. I sat alone in the darkness. My eyes drifted toward the drawer. The same drawer. The same cross. Slowly, I opened it. For several moments, I simply stared at it. Then I picked it up. I don't know why. Even now, I can't fully explain it. But as I held that small wooden cross in my hands, something happened. I felt an overwhelming urge to pray. Not a formal prayer. Not a rehearsed prayer. A desperate prayer. The kind that comes from a broken heart. I bowed my head. If you are real. My voice trembled. If you are truly calling me. Tears filled my eyes. Please save my wife. The room remained silent. Yet somehow, I felt heard. For the first time in years, I felt a small spark of hope. But what happened the following night would leave me shaken to my core. Because that night, I had the most vivid dream of my entire life. A dream involving the light. A dream involving a man clothed in brilliant brightness. A dream that ended with a shocking instruction. An instruction that would lead me to stand before thousands of people holding a cross above my head. And seconds later, something would happen in the heavens that nobody present would ever forget. I barely slept that night. The doctor's words kept echoing in my mind. We're running out of options. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my wife lying in that hospital bed. Weak. Fragile. Fading. The woman who had stood beside me through every success and every failure now seemed to be slipping through my fingers. And there was nothing I could do. For the first time in my life, I was completely helpless. Sometime after midnight, exhaustion finally overcame me. I fell asleep in the chair beside my bed. Then the dream began. Once again, I found myself standing in the desert. The same desert. The same darkness. The same powerful wind. But this time something was different. The light was closer. Much closer. Instead of appearing on the distant horizon, it was directly ahead of me. Brilliant. Radiant. Alive. The brightness was unlike anything I had ever seen. It illuminated everything around me. The darkness began retreating. The storm began weakening. The fear inside me started disappearing. Then I noticed someone standing within the light. A man. At first, I couldn't see his face. The brightness was too intense. But with every step I took, the image became clearer. And suddenly, I knew. I cannot explain how. I simply knew. This was Jesus. The realization sent shockwaves through my body. I stopped walking. My heart pounded. The figure continued moving toward me. Peace surrounded him. Love surrounded him. Authority surrounded him. Everything about him felt powerful, yet gentle, strong, yet compassionate. Then he spoke my name. Faisal. The sound of my name pierced my heart. I fell to my knees. Tears filled my eyes. Why are you calling me? I asked. My voice trembled. The figure smiled. Then he answered. Because I have not forgotten you. The words broke me. Years of pain surfaced instantly. Years of confusion. Years of loneliness. Years of searching for meaning. All of it came rushing out. I don't understand, I cried. My wife is suffering. Tears streamed down my face. My life is falling apart. I lowered my head. I've lost hope. For several moments, there was silence. Then Jesus spoke again. Your hope was never meant to be placed in yourself. The words struck me deeply. Because they were true. My entire life had been built on my own strength. My own success. My own influence. My own wisdom. Now all of those things had failed me. Then Jesus extended his hand toward me. As he did, something appeared. A cross. Simple. Wooden. Beautiful. The same cross that sat inside my drawer. The same cross given to me by the mysterious stranger. I stared at it. then looked back toward him. What does this mean? The answer changed everything. Do not be ashamed of what I am about to do. A chill ran through me. Then Jesus continued. Soon you will stand before many people. The dream became clearer. Suddenly, I saw a massive gathering. Thousands of people. Mountains in the background. A large public event. And there I was, standing before the crowd, holding the cross high above my head. The sight terrified me. No. I shook my head. I can't do that. The thought seemed impossible. What would people think? What would they say? How would they react? Jesus looked at me with compassion. Then he spoke words I will never forget. If you trust me, you will see my glory. The moment those words were spoken, the dream ended. I woke up instantly. My heart raced. Tears covered my face. The room was dark. But something inside me had changed. For the first time in months I felt hope. Real hope. Not wishful thinking. Not optimism. Hope. The next morning, I rushed to the hospital. The moment I entered my wife's room, I noticed something different. She looked stronger. Not completely healed, but stronger. The color had returned to her face. Her breathing seemed easier. Even the nurses appeared surprised. One doctor reviewed her chart several times. Then another. Then another. Nobody seemed able to explain what they were seeing. My heart filled with cautious hope. Could this be connected? Could the dream mean something? I kept those thoughts to myself. Days passed. My wife's condition continued improving. Slowly. Steadily. Unexpectedly. The doctors were amazed. Family members were stunned. I remained silent. Yet deep inside, I knew something extraordinary was happening. Then 1 week later, I received an invitation. A large public gathering was being organized in the mountains. Thousands were expected to attend. Community leaders would be speaking. Business leaders would be present. Media outlets would be covering the event. And they wanted me to address the crowd. The moment I read the invitation, my hands began shaking. My mind immediately returned to the dream. The crowd. The mountains. The cross. The impossible instruction. I knew exactly what this meant. And honestly, I was terrified. For several days, I wrestled with the decision. I argued with myself. I made excuses. I looked for ways to avoid it. But no matter how hard I tried, one sentence kept returning. If you trust me, you will see my glory. Finally, the day arrived. Thousands gathered beneath the mountains. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement. People filled every available space. Cameras recorded every moment. Speakers took turns addressing the crowd. Then my name was announced. The audience erupted in applause. My stomach tightened. My heart pounded. Inside my pocket rested the small wooden cross. The same cross from the stranger. The same cross from the dream. I slowly walked toward the stage. Thousands of eyes watched me. The moment had come. And what happened next would leave the entire crowd speechless. Because seconds after I lifted the cross above my head, something happened in the heavens that nobody there would ever forget. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. Thousands of people filled the valley beneath the mountains. The air was warm. The sky was clear. Everything seemed normal. Yet deep inside, I knew this day was different. I stepped onto the platform and looked across the crowd. Faces stretched as far as I could see. Families. Community leaders. Business owners. Students. Journalists. Cameras pointed toward the stage. Everyone waited for me to speak. I swallowed hard. Inside my pocket rested the small wooden cross. The same cross given to me by the mysterious stranger. The same cross I saw in the dream. The same cross Jesus had placed before me. My hands trembled. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to pretend none of this was happening. But the words from the dream echoed once again. If you trust me, you will see my glory. I took a deep breath, then began speaking. For several minutes, I shared my story. The sleepless nights, my wife's illness, the dreams, the stranger, the growing sense that something beyond myself was calling me. The crowd listened carefully. Nobody interrupted. Nobody laughed. The atmosphere felt unusually serious. Then I reached into my pocket. A wave of fear swept through me. My hands shook visibly. I could feel thousands watching, wondering, questioning, waiting. Slowly, I pulled out the wooden cross. The audience immediately reacted. Whispers spread throughout the crowd. People looked at one another. Some appeared shocked, others confused. Many simply stared. I looked toward the mountains, then toward the sky, then back at the crowd. Tears filled my eyes. My voice cracked. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Finally, I raised the cross above my head. The entire gathering fell silent. The silence was overwhelming. Thousands of people stood motionless. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody looked away. And then it happened. A sudden wind rushed through the valley. Powerful. Unexpected. The crowd gasped. Dust swirled across the ground. Clothing fluttered violently. People grabbed their hats. Children held tightly to their parents. Within seconds, the atmosphere changed completely. The bright sky above us began filling with clouds. Not slowly. Rapidly. Almost unnaturally. People pointed upward. Conversations stopped. Cameras shifted toward the heavens. My heart raced. The wind continued increasing. Then came a loud rumble. The sound echoed through the mountains. Not once. Again. And again. The crowd stood frozen. Many people stared upward in disbelief. Then something appeared. A brilliant opening in the clouds. At first it seemed small. Then it grew larger. And larger. And larger. Sunlight burst through the opening. Radiant beams stretched across the valley. The mountains glowed. The landscape seemed transformed. Thousands gasped simultaneously. Some people began crying. Others fell to their knees. Several raised their hands toward the sky. I could barely breathe. The sight was overwhelming. The light appeared directly above the gathering, brighter than anything I had ever seen. For several moments, nobody spoke. The crowd simply stared, completely captivated. Then something even more astonishing happened. My phone vibrated. Then another. Then another. Across the crowd, phones began buzzing. People looked down, confused. Messages were arriving. Calls were coming in. At first, nobody understood why. Then my phone rang again. The screen displayed the hospital's number. My heart nearly stopped. Fear rushed through me. I answered immediately. Hello. The voice on the other end sounded excited, almost emotional. Mr. Faisal? Yes. You need to come to the hospital. My stomach tightened. What happened? For a moment, there was silence. Then the nurse spoke words that changed everything. Your wife is asking for you. I froze. She's awake. Tears instantly filled my eyes. The nurse continued. Not only awake. Her voice trembled. She's improving dramatically. The cross nearly slipped from my hand. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The crowd remained focused on the heavens. But my entire world had shifted. My wife. The woman doctors feared might never recover. The woman whose condition had worsened for years. The woman I had nearly lost. She was awake. And improving. I fell to my knees. The tears came uncontrollably. For the first time in my life, I openly cried in front of thousands. I no longer cared what anyone thought. All I could do was thank God. The audience watched silently. Many were crying as well. The atmosphere felt sacred, holy, unforgettable. Yet the greatest miracle wasn't happening in the sky. And it wasn't even happening in the hospital. The greatest miracle was happening inside my heart. Because in that moment, every doubt collapsed. Every fear surrendered. Every wall I had built came crashing down. I finally understood. Jesus had not abandoned me. He had been pursuing me. Through the dreams. Through the pain. Through the struggles. Through the darkness. Even when I couldn't see him, he had been there all along. But what happened when I arrived at the hospital shocked me even more than what happened beneath the mountains. Because my wife had a testimony of her own. A testimony she had never shared with anyone. A testimony involving a dream she experienced the very same night I saw Jesus. And when she told me what happened, I realized God had been working in both of our lives at the same time. I drove to the hospital as fast as I could. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. My mind replayed everything that had happened beneath the mountains. The crowd, the cross, the wind, the opening in the clouds, the phone call. None of it felt real. Part of me wondered if I was dreaming. But when I arrived at the hospital, I realized this was no dream. This was reality. The moment I entered my wife's room, I stopped in the doorway. Tears immediately filled my eyes. She was sitting upright, smiling. The woman who had spent months barely speaking above a whisper was sitting up in bed. The woman doctors feared might not recover looked stronger than she had in years. For several moments, neither of us spoke. We simply stared at each other. Then she began crying, and so did I. I rushed to her side and held her tightly. Neither of us wanted to let go. It felt as though God had handed me back a gift I thought I had lost forever. After several minutes, she gently wiped away her tears. Then she said something unexpected. "Faisal, there is something I need to tell you." I looked at her. "What is it?" She hesitated. Then she smiled. "You first." I laughed softly. "No, you first." Her expression became serious. Then she said words that instantly captured my attention. "I had a dream." My heart skipped a beat. A dream. The same word that had changed my life. I sat down beside her. "What kind of dream?" Tears appeared in her eyes. "It happened 3 nights ago. That was the exact night I had my encounter with Jesus." The realization sent chills through my body. She continued. "In the dream, I was standing in complete darkness. I listened carefully. There was no pain." Her voice trembled. "No sickness." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "No fear." Then she smiled. "Only peace." The room fell silent. She looked toward the window, then back at me. Suddenly, I saw a bright light. My heart pounded. The similarities were impossible to ignore. She continued. The light moved closer. Tears streamed down her face. And then I saw a man. I could barely breathe. A man dressed in white. The room felt charged with emotion. My wife lowered her head, then whispered. He called my name. I felt tears forming again. What did he say? She closed her eyes, as though reliving the moment. Then she answered. He said, "Do not be afraid. Your story is not over." I broke down crying. Completely. The same Jesus who had spoken to me had spoken to her. The same Jesus who met me in my desperation had visited her in her weakness. God had been working in both of our lives at the same time, and neither of us knew it. For the next hour, we shared everything. My dreams, her dreams, my prayer, her encounter, the cross, the gathering, the mountains, the opening in the clouds. By the time we finished talking, there was no doubt left. God had orchestrated every detail, every struggle, every delay, every heartbreak, every tear. Nothing had been wasted. The months that followed were remarkable. My wife's health continued improving. Doctors remained amazed. Friends were shocked. Family members celebrated. But the greatest transformation wasn't physical. It was spiritual. The emptiness that had haunted me for years disappeared. The fear that once controlled me lost its grip. The pride that dominated my life finally surrendered. For the first time, I understood what true peace felt like. Not temporary happiness. Not success. Not wealth. Not recognition. Peace. Real peace. The kind that comes from knowing God. The kind that remains even during life's storms. As our testimony spread, people began reaching out. Some asked questions. Some shared their own stories. Others asked for prayer. Many were facing impossible situations. Broken marriages. Sick children. Financial struggles. Depression. Addiction. Loss. The more people I met, the more I realized something. Pain is universal. Everyone is fighting a battle. Everyone is carrying something. Everyone needs hope. And that became my mission. To tell people what Jesus had done for us. Not because we deserved it. Not because we were special. But because God is merciful. Because God still changes lives. Because no situation is beyond His reach. Looking back now, I understand something I couldn't see during those difficult years. God was not punishing me. He was preparing me. The trials that nearly broke me became the very things that led me to Him. The suffering that seemed meaningless became part of a greater story. The darkness helped me recognize the light. And the moment I finally surrendered everything, I discovered what I had been searching for all along. Jesus. Not religion. Not rituals. Not traditions. Jesus. The one who met me in my despair. The one who answered my cry. The one who healed my heart before He restored my circumstances. The one who changed everything. If you're watching this today, I want to speak directly to you. Maybe your family is struggling. Maybe your marriage is under attack. Maybe your health is failing. Maybe you're carrying financial burdens that seem impossible. Maybe you're praying for a breakthrough and wondering if God hears you. I want you to know something. He does. He sees every tear. He hears every prayer. He knows every fear. And He has not forgotten you. The same God who met me in my darkest season is able to meet you in yours. The same Jesus who transformed my life can transform yours. Do not give up. Do not lose hope. Your story is not over. Your breakthrough may be closer than you think. Your miracle may be on the other side of your greatest struggle. Keep praying. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Because God is still working even when you cannot see it. Heavenly Father, I lift up every person watching this testimony right now. Lord, You know their names. You know their struggles. You know the burdens they carry that nobody else sees. Father, I pray for every family represented here today. Let Your peace fill their homes. Restore broken relationships. Bring healing where there is pain. Bring unity where there is division. Bring love where there is conflict. Lord, I pray for every husband, every wife, every parent, and every child. Cover them with Your protection and favor. Father, I pray for jobs, businesses, careers, and finances. Open doors that no one can shut. Provide opportunities where there seem to be none. Bless the work of their hands. Give them wisdom, favor, and breakthrough. For those seeking employment, Lord, make a way for them. For those struggling financially, provide for every need. For those building businesses, establish their plans according to Your will. Father, I pray for healing. Touch every sick body. Strengthen every weary heart. Comfort those who are grieving. Encourage those who feel discouraged. Restore those who feel broken. Lord, let your peace replace anxiety. Let your joy replace sorrow. Let your hope replace fear. I pray for every prayer request being lifted up right now. Every spoken prayer. Every unspoken prayer. Every silent cry of the heart. Father, answer according to your perfect will and your great mercy. Let testimonies arise from every nation. Let families be restored. Let lives be transformed. Let your name be glorified. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you for listening to my testimony. If this story encouraged you, subscribe and join this growing family of faith. Share this testimony with someone who needs hope today. Before you leave, tell us your location and the exact time you're watching from. And most importantly, leave your prayer request in the comments below. No matter what you're facing, don't hesitate to share it. There are people here who care, who believe, and who will stand with you in prayer. Remember, a Saudi man held up a cross. Seconds later, the heavens opened. But the greatest miracle wasn't what happened in the sky. The greatest miracle was what happened in his heart. And the same God who changed his life is still changing lives today. May God bless you abundantly. Amen.